It's Michelle with Books Cause Insomnia, and I'm here today to talk to you about things that really irritate me. I'm gonna vent. I want to talk about what authors do in books that just gets under my skin and usually will make me bring the rating of a book down at least 1 star, maybe more. And there's no particular order to this because I've just been making note of it as I've been thinking about it. And feel free to let me know in the comments whether you agree with me. Maybe some of these things irritate you too. Maybe they don't bother you. Let me know if they don't bother you. Or if there's things I don't mention that just get under your skin, let me know that too. One-dimensional characters. I don't get that. It's very hard for me to get attached to a character that has no substance. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be likable. But I need to have something to them. I also prefer if throughout the book their lives are advanced in some way, or maybe they learn something wonderful, or something that's kind of propelling the storyline forward for the character. I feel like a lot of books, the character is the exact same in the beginning as they were at the end. And I mean, I guess that's okay, but it's just kind of boring. Now, speaking of characters, I also don't like it when characters don't have any flaws. If they're perfect, whatever you might consider perfect. Especially the beautiful, thin, petite, rich girl who, her life is just really difficult in this book now because instead of getting a Porsche for her birthday, she got a BMW. It's like, I just can't relate. I can't relate. I don't get it. I may have some things, but I've had to work very hard for what I have. And it's hard for me to relate to the rich family and the kids who inherit everything and don't ever have to work. And right, it's like you almost kind of want bad things to happen to those characters just so they could for 5 minutes know what your life might be like, right? Or I feel like that anyway. I also don't like overly dramatic characters or characters that are like really childish, unless they're a child, but or characters who are constantly mentioning something that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the storyline. To me, not only is it overly dramatic, but it's not important. It has nothing to do with the storyline. Mention it once or twice and move on with the book, please. Lack of diversity. So, what's going on with that? If a book is written in 2021, why is there no diversity in it? I don't understand that. We live in America. I mean, if the book takes place in America, we live in America. We're a melting pot society. To have every single person in the book be a certain way is kind of weird to me. It doesn't seem realistic. So that definitely irritates me. I don't like it when there's storylines or things mentioned that aren't wrapped up. And then I'm wondering what the whole point was. As an example, let's just say we're reading a book about Sarah. And Sarah is going to spend Christmas with her grandma. It's just going to be the two of them. So she doesn't have any other family. She's going to go hang out with her grandma. Grandma's not getting any younger. And she's got this huge secret. Okay. The author doesn't tell us what the secret is, but there's this huge secret. She's going to tell grandma what it is at Christmas, and it could change their relationship forever, right? So it's just building and building this secret. How's grandma going to react? I figure, okay, maybe she's coming out of the closet. Maybe she's pregnant. What could it be? So reading the book, this is what we're thinking about the whole time, right? Just dying to know. And then she gets to Christmas. Her and grandma have a great time. And she leaves. But she doesn't tell us, the author doesn't tell us. Not only is the secret not told to the grandma, which I thought was the whole point of the book, but we're never told what the secret was. It's just like not even mentioned again. Like, once she gets to Grandma's house, the secret's not mentioned. She doesn't tell her. She doesn't mention why she didn't tell her. It's just, that's it. I'd rather know what the secret was by the end of the book. And I would rather, even if things don't turn out the way we want them to, even if Grandma doesn't react well and tells her she's disowning her, or tells her that she doesn't view her the same, or, I don't care what their reaction is even. But what was the point in the whole book if you're going to bring up this big thing in the beginning and then never tell us what or why or what happened? I don't get that. And I'm seeing it a lot lately, and I don't remember seeing it this much in the past, but it's driving me nuts. And I don't know if, now I do annotate my books, and I do put on my little, if you saw my annotating video, which I will link at the end of this video, up here, or is it over there? Somewhere up there. There'll be a link to it if you want to watch it. But I do these post-it notes, and on one of them, it's all my questions that I want answered in the book. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe other people, if they're not annotating and they're not writing down questions, kind of forget what the questions were that were originally proposed. But because I'm writing it down, I'm getting really aggravated. Should I stop doing that? I don't know. When there's a dual storyline, and one of the parts of the storyline is the past, I keep also running into books where the past is like very slow burn. There's all these details that have nothing to do with what's going on now or with advancing the storyline, and I just feel like they're additional fluff that's there for no reason. And I also think it's a little bit unrealistic for someone to remember that many details about the past. I mean, I thought I had a good memory, but I have to tell you, I don't remember what I ate 35 years ago on a date. I don't remember. Tropes. Okay. I don't like the hate to love trope that's especially in a lot of romance novels. I don't understand that. Like, it's one thing to like, oh, I don't know if I like that person, or oh, he's kind of a jerk or whatever. But like, you straight out hate somebody and you're going to fall in love with them later? Really? Have you ever known anybody that hated somebody and then fell in love with them? Like, it's pretty unusual. And why would somebody be ignoring their instincts to that degree? To actually open up the door like that, to the point of allowing yourself to give somebody you hate a chance as a love interest? Like, to me, that just seems like really kind of red flag. I don't like it when women in books are rescued by men. Really? Oh. Just, to me, is very sexist, and I don't care for that. I think that when you fall in love with somebody, I think it should be a choice. You're choosing that person, and you're choosing to stay with that person. But like, I gotta tell you, Brad knows that I am fully capable of taking care of myself, and that I don't need him. I want to be with him, and that's why we're married. I choose to be with him, but I don't need him. No, I certainly do not. I don't think that's very healthy to feel like you need someone. I don't get the whole love triangle thing. I think the way that chemistry works, the way that love works, the way that our hearts and our emotions work, I get that maybe you're dating somebody and then you meet somebody else and it's like, which one? But usually it's pretty quick to decide, right? Like the whole ongoing love triangle. I have no idea who I'm going to choose. And they're both just waiting and just allowing this to keep happening. Come on. You should, if you're really into somebody, nobody else is going to compare. Am I right? Like, you feel it for that person. So that one's hard for me to understand. I don't like toxic relationships in books. And another thing I don't like in books that kind of seems to usually continue is there's like a glamorization of toxic relationships or a normalization of it. And I think that's very, very negative and toxic for people reading the books. I feel like I could have saved myself a marriage or maybe two in the past if I hadn't read so many books that glamorized toxic relationships. And what I mean by that is you'll have two people who are dating and one is abusive of the other one. Let's just say mentally. That's the one that seems to really be normalized in books. So somebody's mentally abusive, and let's say it's the guy just in this case. Okay, so the guy's mentally abusive and the woman's like, oh, why doesn't he love me? If I could just show him how much I love him, if I could just prove to him how much I care, then he'll love me and appreciate me. And that's how the book goes. This guy keeps treating her like crap over and over and over again. Then usually she'll finally say, you know what, Blade, I have had it with the way you treat me. And she'll leave. And then he'll do some cheesy, stupid thing he saw in a rom-com. He'll go running through the airport, which you can't even do anymore, but whatever. Somehow got through TSA, went running through the airport with, it's got to be a dozen red roses, because, you know, you couldn't buy somebody daisies or something, right? Running through the airport with a dozen red roses, and, you know, Jocelyn, I'm so sorry. I do love you. I appreciate you now that you left me. And then she gives him another chance. Everybody's clapping. And they walk off into the sunset happily ever after. No. The truth is, I found this out the hard way. If you give Blade another chance, if you're Jocelyn, you just gave him a green light to keep treating you that way because you gave him another chance. So now Blade is going to get more abusive. If somebody has it in them to abuse you, they're going to keep doing it. They're not going to stop. And if they do stop, it'll be with someone else, not with you. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. It's something I've learned in life. Maybe there's one instance out there where it's different, but I've never seen it. And I wish they would stop normalizing this kind of behavior in books and making it out like that's something that we all need to accept and applaud, and just keep giving this jerk a chance because he's gonna love you one day. No, he doesn't care about you or love you. You're like probably somebody, like if Jocelyn is probably a side piece that he's keeping around in case things don't work out with other girls. You know what I mean? Like this is all, I wish they would stop. When I read my cozy mysteries, I really can't stand it when the sleuth is smarter than the cops. Really? Come on. They notice things the cops don't notice. They go by after the fact and find something still lying there that the cops didn't see, and it's like, it was right next to the body. You really want me to believe that a whole team of cops didn't notice what was lying right next to a body? I'm not saying it's impossible, but when it happens repetitively to one sleuth, book after book after book, it's a bit much. And some of the things that are actually allowed in some of these books, where people are just walking right into crime scenes and all that, come on, the cops aren't going to let you do that. I like details. I want to know, I don't have to have a lot of them, but I want a few beautiful sentences about what season it is. What does it look like? What does it feel like when somebody walks out their door in this time of year, in this book, in this place, right? I love that. I love descriptions of where somebody lives. I want to feel like I've been there. I want to be able to picture it in my head. And I want to know if they have a job. I want to know about their work. I don't have to have a lot of details, but just enough to understand where they work, or at least what they do for a living. Do they like it? Are they in a cubicle or an office, or do they work behind a counter? You know, I want some details of their lives. That really helps go a long way for me with my attachment level. When the cover and the book don't match, or when the title in the book don't match, and I'm sorry, I have to call you out on this, girl, but my favorite cozy mystery author, Krista Davis, she has a book called The Diva Serves Forbidden Fruit. The title doesn't make sense because there's nothing, like, I'm thinking there's got to be somebody being poisoned with like arsenic on strawberries or something, right? Nothing else mentioned in the book about fruit that I remember. Then on the cover, this huge spread of fruit. But yet the book is about a bunch of people who went on the same vacation, come home, and all end up one by one being killed and their homes are ransacked. So maybe show a door with like a dark figure running out the door, or, you know, something like that, something that matches the book. And then maybe have the title have, I don't know, the name of the place they went. I think they went to Portugal in the book or something. You know, something that somehow applies to the story. But I see this a lot. So if you have examples of that, let me know, because I love looking stuff like that up. Especially like even if a title doesn't match a book. Like, why was it called that exactly? You know, that kind of thing. I love that. I don't like it when the synopsis doesn't match the book. Well, I mean, you probably know if you've been watching me very long, I like to read the synopsis to you guys about books. And sometimes I later think, I wish I hadn't read that to them because it has nothing to do with the book. Why? Or the synopsis just, maybe it has to do with the book, but it doesn't sell it very well. I don't get the point in that either. What is up with tiny writing in books? Where I have 20/20 vision, and there are books that I have to wear reading glasses when I read them because the writing is so small. I'll do like the 1.0 reading glasses, but just to make it a little bit easier on my eyes. I also am kind of a little pet peeve here, but that's what we're here about, right? I don't like it when chapters are really short, like 5 pages long, but I also don't like it when they're 50 pages long. Could we just have like 15 to 30 page long chapters, please? Because it just feels weird when, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm just going to finish the chapter and then I'll go do the dishes. What do you do when it's a 50-page chapter? Lack of economic reality. What I mean by that one is, I've read a lot of books like this where there's somebody that works as a sales person at Macy's in New York. Okay. But they live in a high rise in New York in a large apartment. And it's like, no, there's no way she could afford that. And so then I'll think, okay, does she have rich parents or something? Maybe they paid. Nope, doesn't. She's an orphan. It's like, what is she? She's got to be doing something to afford that place, because there's no way you just. I've never met a landlord where you could walk in and say, I know rent is $5,000 here, but I can only afford $900. Are you okay with that? And they'd be like, yeah, go ahead, move into a high rise in New York City for $900 a month, because that's all you can afford. Although I don't think that you could get a high rise apartment in New York City for $5,000. I feel like a lot of books kind of, they make it seem like certain people don't deserve love the way other people do. I read this a lot with fat women in books where, in spite of her being fat, this guy fell in love with her, and he gave, even though she was fat, he still loved her and gave her a chance. Like, what? Really? There's a lot of fat people in this world, and a lot of them have people that love them, and I don't think that that is fair to say that only skinny people deserve love. I also see it when it comes to male characters. It's always this tall, dark, handsome guy with six-pack abs, and it's like, really? There's a lot of guys that don't look like that. I think if people gave men that weren't tall a chance, they might be really happy. I'm just saying, there's a lot of men out there that are really great people that aren't tall. And what about the Dad Bod? Could we please bring that back? I think the Dad Bod's kind of sexy myself. Is it my age? I don't know, but I kind of like it. I do. It's a thing. And last, but certainly not least, I don't get this whole thing, and I probably mentioned it before, about a town that doesn't forget something that's happened. They've never moved on. 30 years ago, somebody was killed, and They still aren't over it 30 years later in this town. Everybody's talking about it every day. We still haven't solved this crime. It's like, really? I mean, maybe a really small town. I don't know. I've never lived in a really small town, but I know I grew up in a smaller town. It certainly wasn't a large town by any means. And I remember there was this guy. It was when I want to say I was 15 when it happened. There was this guy that was 18 or 19 that killed his parents. Okay, and that house sat empty for years. And it was kind of a big deal for like 2 years maybe. And I know part of why it was probably a bigger deal with the people that I was friends with is some of the people that I was friends with knew the guy. So that obviously would be a much bigger deal if somebody you knew did something. But after a couple of years, I stopped hearing about it. I always have, to this day, if I'm back in town and I drive by where that house was, I always think of that. The house is gone now. They knocked it down, I guess, well, it was after I moved away, but they knocked the house down. But I can assure you that people in high school right now in that town, because it's been about 30 years, aren't thinking about that murder that happened 30 years ago. They probably don't even know about it. And if they do, they probably wouldn't care. I mean, if I'm honest. And so it just seems a little odd that an entire town is just wrecked by this. And years later, it's just all anybody talks about. It's like, it's got to be an awfully small town for people to be that concerned with something that many years later. I mean, I hate to say this, but people move on with their lives. Bad things happen and people move on. And that's it. That's all I've got. That's everything oh, one other thing. I don't like typos. Why do people, do they not have editors? Do they not reread the book? What's with all the typos? I don't understand that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Be sure to let me know what you think of my list down in the comments, or if you have anything you'd like to add, or tell me maybe you enjoy that I don't like. Call me out. All right. Happy reading. Bye.